You're now tuning into the Florida Fishing Podcast and Show with co-hosts Tim Summer and Ty Nelson.
What is up, world? You're listening to the Florida Fishing Show and Podcast. I'm your co-host, Ty Nelson. I'm here with my fellow co-host today, Tim Summer, and a special guest. We have Chad Smith. Chad, do you have a name for your company, or is this right now just Chad Smith?
Just Chad
Original
Smith.
Art.
The LLC
Creative.
is under Chad Smith Sport and Game Photography, but Chad
Awesome.
Smith works.
Chad Smith.
Cool. So Chad does a lot of awesome photography and videography, and has been in the fishing industry. How long have you been in the fishing industry
Only
as a whole?
as a whole, like personally, before the filming and the photography.
Right.
Oh man, 15 years maybe.
Gotcha. So you've been fishing for a while.
Been fishing for a while.
Cool. And then now you've kind of progressed, gotten to the point where you're shooting film and photos at a very high level and really making a name for yourself. You're telling us how you're going to be basically filming with multiple outdoor industry companies here. What is it, tomorrow or?
Yeah, this weekend.
Cool, this weekend. So that's awesome. Really making a name quick, which is cool. Which
Right.
that particular work takes a long time. And you were telling us earlier behind the scenes how you kind of progressed so quickly and just picked it up. And it's
Yeah.
definitely something where like you're either natural or you're not at this, you know.
Right.
And it's cool what you've been able to do in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I can even tell. I mean, we were talking earlier. We were looking at your Instagram account, and
Oh,
just,
okay, yeah.
you can tell that you have a creative mind and a good eye for aesthetics, and even more than just video. I mean, just the aesthetics of your. It's one of the better, like, eye-friendly Instagram pages. Like, if you scroll through just your photos from a far distance, it looks good, and
I preach
it's
aesthetics
very
too,
creative.
but it's hard to actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is hard work actually. I'm challenged by that as well. Like I try to make it so that, like, honestly, within the colors of Instagram line up, because I want it to be like, I feel like some Instagram feeds. I mean, not to get off on a tangent, but you'll look at one photo and you kind of stop.
Right.
My goal is that you like the work that's being put out there. So you might scroll a couple times to
Right.
see what else is out there.
It's a gallery, you know.
Yeah, right.
You want people to stick around, and people say like Instagram is now starting to become like almost your website. Like people go there first, and I find myself even doing it. I think either younger generations do the same. When you hear about a company or a product, a lot of times like you go to Instagram first to see what kind of company they are. And I think the reason why I do it is I'm like, is this cool? Is this going to make me look like I'm cooler than I am?
Yeah.
And so I go to their Instagram first, and that'll tell me really quickly like what their company is like, just based on their their description, their profile pic, and then their first 3 to 6 photos on their Instagram. But yeah, it's that Instagram aesthetic is absolutely huge, you know, and you definitely do it well.
I
appreciate it,
yeah.
buddy.
And it reminds me of Jack, too, like our intern I was telling you about. Same thing. I noticed that he had that creative touch on his Instagram. He understood the aesthetics. I was like, if he knows that much, then I think he has an eye for photography. He says like a more of a creative mind.
Right.
And it definitely takes a creative mind to do what you do. But
Yeah.
anyways, we'll get more into like filming and photography and all that. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Like you were telling me you're a military vet, and also you worked for Tampa PD, right?
Right. I do.
So let's go back like to the beginning, like Chad Smith, day one. Like you're 15 years old. Are you in JROTC or what happened?
I did none of that, man. I actually wanted to be a marine biologist, believe it or not.
Awesome.
Yeah. So high school just didn't work out that well for me. I was that average student, and then my mom, kind of pushed me kind of the military route. And honestly, I joined the Marines because of I like the uniform. Honest with you. There was no rhyme or reason. I felt like at the beginning, I almost got suckered into it. I never was like the young kid that said, I'm going to be a cop or I'm going to be like the few and the proud or whatever. I just kind of one day went into a recruiting office, and next thing you know, I'm going to bust to Parris Island. And so it served me well, though. I did 5 years in there because at the time, September 11th happened, stop loss. I was actually stationed in Washington, D.C. I know we didn't get off record, but that's a whole nother story. But
Wow.
so I was stationed at Quantico in D.C., so I was attached to a security forces detail. Not to get off on tangent, but like when September 11th happened, like I was right down the street from that. So I got like pictures of all that because we were escorting Joint Chiefs of Staff to like the Pentagon for a meeting.
Dang, that's crazy.
So yeah, it's crazy. So when you hear all these stories about like a missile hit the Pentagon or whatever, that's just Hogwash.
Right.
Yeah.
You were there.
Yeah,
You know
so-
what actually
right.
happened. But I'm sure a lot of you can't disclose.
Yeah, right.
We won't
Well,
push
it's
too
too
far.
far, yeah.
So you went from being in the Marine Corps, saving lives.
Yeah. So and then when I got out,
Who knows?
yeah. So when I got out, I had a family. I have 2 daughters, and so I had a newborn on the way. So my wife was wanting to get. She's like, "Hey, I want to go back home." So I got out. Probably, and I was thinking about it the other day. Like I'd have like 20 years in by now. Like
Right.
it's crazy. I'd be some crazy rank, you know, be
Right.
running the show.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So,
I don't know the ranks, but you'd be up there.
yeah, I'd be up there. So I got out and I needed to make fast money quick. And again, the marine biology thing had to take a back seat. So I had again, no ambitions of ever being the cop.
Mhm.
I'm like, what can I do to make fast money quick? I have a newborn on the way. I'm freshly out of the military. I'm a young guy. So I went to the police academy and TPD picked me up and I served TPD for about 10 to 12 years. And
That's
can't
awesome.
disclose everything I did in there, but like
Yeah.
that, it allowed me to support a hobby. You know, at the same time, I found the fishing game on my
Yeah.
days off, almost like as a relaxation thing. Like
Right.
I don't want to say PTSD or anything, but that was your chance to get away.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, sure.
I got into the fishing
There's
thing.
no doubt
Yeah.
that being in any sort of uniform, there's more stress that comes with that job than any other that are
Mhm.
out there. I would
Right.
say if you're
Yeah.
wearing a uniform, your job is probably more difficult than
Yeah, and I mean, they
majority
all,
people.
yeah,
you know.
everybody has their stresses in life, and that was my way to get away is fishing. And I just happened to have a brother that has a nice boat. Like, yeah. And so I got into the offshore fishing game. I loved it, and
Yeah.
So were you running East Coast or West Coast of
East
Florida?
Coast out of Port
East
Canaveral.
Coast.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, so we
I
did
see.
the whole like dolphin fishing, sailfishing. You get
Awesome.
marlins in there.
You guys get some good
Tuna.
triple tail out there as well.
Yeah, triple tail. We were more going for the mahi and the tuna runs on
Right.
on the Gulf Stream.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, I guess if I had the boat
You're
for
in
it,
that-
I'd probably
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
I think triple tail is kind of like more of like a
That's a-
lazy fishing. in a
That's a
sense.
Gulf. That's a Gulf.
But you
Coast
know what?
thing.
I will say this: the offshore
Big
fishing.
triple tail though.
There are.
They have really big triple tail.
And nobody fishes them.
Yeah.
saying
Well,
awesome.
there's some guys that they're real big on like kingfish and stuff over
Right.
there. Like they'll come in with monster kingfish, but we weren't going for that.
just weren't really going for
but
that.
they
Yeah,
know
mahi
the
tuna.
spots.
That's the good eats
Yeah,
right there.
that's the mahi tuna. We come out sometimes back into the ramp, struck out, but a lot of times we came back heavy loaded.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
So are you guys doing tournaments? You said you were doing some tournaments.
yeah, we did all kind. We've done King of the Beach multiple times. We've done hundreds of tournaments. I feel like down from St. Augustine down to the Keys to Port Canaveral up north some. I don't even remember all of them off the top of my head right now.
That's
Yeah.
cool. There's something fun about tournaments, Like I
Yeah.
fished a lot of kayak tournaments, like I was saying. I fished live bait tournaments, artificial tournaments. I've never done a fly tournament. I've done like boat tournaments, kayak tournaments, shore tournaments, a little bit of everything in between. And something about the competition of it, like I absolutely loved it. I love being able to put the game plan together and just making it happen. Like for me, I used to always think about what I would say on stage rather than worrying about like where I was going to go to fish. Like I already kind of had that figured out. I was like, what am I going to say when I get on stage? Like that's the type of heady competitive fisherman I was. But when it comes to offshore fishing, it's like you're not going to like a specific flat. Yeah, there's certain reefs, but if you're doing tuna and like mahi, like I don't really know. Like you got the Gulf Stream out there. Like,
Yeah.
what are you looking for? You're looking for birds and
there's
bait,
birds,
like-
there's all things. People now they got technology like Seymour mapping and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
So there's the temperature breaks in the water, rips in the water, the birds. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But I can tell you what, there's no day ever probably the same. I mean,
Right. It's more on the fly.
Yeah, it's kinda-
How do you I guess consistently do well in tournaments offshore is what I want to know, because like I can go to the same flat and I know like the redfish on certain flats act differently than the redfish on other flats, and I know when I'm on that flat how those specific fish act. So it's easy to go back and kind of recreate a situation. It's never exactly the same, but I feel like I've caught the same fish over and over again at times. But you go
Yeah.
offshore and like some days
No.
the Gulf Stream's in, sometimes it's out.
Yeah,
like
you
it's
just got to
changing
measure
with the
that Gulf
wind.
Stream, and then we usually go to the other side of the Gulf Stream, like right on the rips, or everybody knows like weed lines or anything can change. I've been out there before, and we legit found the telephone pole floating in the water, and there was loaded with dolphins. Like going out that day, we didn't expect to find a telephone pole floating in
Right.
the water, but it just so happened we hit the jackpot.
So it's
Like-
kind of like a mix of luck skill.
Yeah.
You got to know what to look
Right.
for. You got to know the temperature. You got to have the right technology with you as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
and a boat to get you there.
Yeah.
And then you
Yep.
got to have the gear to be able to go out and make
Good.
it happen too.
And be able to land the fish,
And be able
But
to
I feel
land
like
them,
80% of the work is probably in the whole preparation of it.
yeah.
Definitely.
I feel like anybody
Baits and
can
everything
reel a
like
fish
that.
in to a degree.
Yeah.
Right, that's true. Once they're hooked, but
Yeah.
offshore's a little
Absolutely.
different. 'Cause you have less structure to worry about.
Yeah.
But there's definitely still a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I
If you're
mean,
hooked up to
trolling
big
around,
fish,
you don't want to get weeds on your lines that you have out in
right.
the.
You don't want to have like too
there.
high of a drag set. You got
Yeah.
you still got to
Got to worry about the speed and then playing the current, the wind, all that stuff.
But once you're cranking, I guess
But
as long as you got tension
It's
on,
nothing
you're
like
good.
it, man. But I can tell you, filming wise, though, I feel like offshore filming is fun.
Mhm.
However, I was never a big inshore guy,
Mhm.
but the inshore game is fun to film.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's like,
here's what I think. I think inshore fishermen have a lot to catch up to with the offshore filmers. You know what I mean? Inshore filming
Mhm.
is, I don't think,
It's
nearly as high
It's-
quality at this point. I mean,
It's
think of it.
difficult.
Think of it's more difficult, well, for one, but
inshore.
think
yeah.
of, but with the offshore, you got these marlin people. Like ESPN used to do very high quality productions of like
Right.
marlin fishing and stuff. You just don't see that in the inshore.
Yeah, and part
And-
of it though, I think, is water clarity and quality. When you're offshore, everything's blue. It's beautiful. It's pleasing to the
Yeah.
eyes. And then if you get underwater, you can see really clearly. Like
Right.
if you just put a GoPro underwater,
Right.
you can make it look like
water
a,
clarity.
yeah, it looks
Yeah.
beautiful. And then if you throw a drone up, you can see everything.
Yep.
When I'm in the Hillsborough River, how do I make that look sexy? Like it's really
It's really
difficult,
hard. You know, there's a lot
It's
of
hard.
editing.
Yeah. And then you got like
Hey, I'm just
cars driving in the
calling
background.
I'm calling the inshore fishermen, the inshore filming to a higher standard because
right.
as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen, and we're getting better.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, it's getting a lot better, and I think it has over the last few years.
Right.
And but with Yeti releasing their films and
Mhm.
you know a lot of other larger companies are starting to get into this, and the production quality has gone up, but I don't know if the money's not there yet or what, but
That's definitely
it's getting there. It's getting there.
But I think the fly industry, though, is where it's at.
Well,
Booming.
and that's the thing. Is the fly industry
They're creative.
seems
yeah,
to be
man, the
getting-
fly industry
What is
is. Huh? I don't know.
What is it about that?
The fly industry is booming, man, and
Mhm.
you know, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if I can throw a fly. I haven't even done it before,
Right.
but I love filming it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like it's something about
Like,
like
an art to just
Yeah.
like the like just the casting to it itself as an art, and plus you're almost feeding every single fish you cast to. It's
yeah,
very much a visual sport, which makes for better
a
video.
lot of
I
skill
think.
in that too.
Mm-hmm. And you're usually pulling
Yeah.
around like a small little skiff in shallow water, and a lot of times, I mean, you still have to deal with the elements. Sometimes
Right.
it's raining, sometimes it's windy, sometimes it's sunny or cloudy, but you're almost always like visually finding a tailing fish or a pushing fish, or you can actually see the fish through the water
Hmm.
if it's clear
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
And then to be able to film that is like that's cool. Like that's a really
Yeah.
unique thing to film. Someone not just like only throwing an artificial bait and tricking a fish, but like a fly that they've tied themselves. You know,
Yeah.
with the like I don't know the actual like I took fly casting lessons. I'm a good fly fisherman, but I don't do it very often. But I still don't really fully understand like the load and the energy that goes into it. Like it is an
There is a
absolute science.
technique for it.
That's why
Sure.
That's why we produce spinning reels.
Yeah. But there is an art about it. Like
Yeah, no, there
I've
is.
been out and filmed a couple of fly guys, and there is definitely it's
serious.
yeah,
They're
it's
serious.
interesting to watch. It's
Yeah.
it's awesome. You know, I feel like a lot of the reels. A lot of people can throw a reel. You get into the fly side of things,
It's a
that
whole
whole
other
industry,
ballgame.
it's a whole different ballgame. Down to you said, like tying the fly. They make their own flies most of
Yeah.
the time. So that I mean, it starts back at home with them making the fly.
Right.
Like, it's-
Right.
They're either they gotta get the material and the right hooks, and then sometimes they're using other patterns. But like a lot of these really really good guides are seeing what the fish are eating, and then they're tying patterns based on what they're seeing the fish eating from fish they've caught and basically filleted up and cut their bellies and seen like the actual bait fish in their bellies. You know, and they're creating their own flies at this point. That's unique. Like, that's cool. Something that you don't see as much. Like people don't make people do make their own jigs for
Yeah.
sure, but you don't see it as much with spinning. Like people aren't making their own lures as much.
Right.
And I say that, but then I guess I take that back. There are guys that make hard baits, and there are guys that make
Yeah,
jigs.
very
but-
few. There's not like a cult surrounding of people who
Right.
make
Something about fly fishing,
No.
it comes with, like, if you like to throw the fly, eventually you want to be able to tie your own flies.
It's funny you said this. I watched a guy last night on, it was YouTube or Instagram.
Right?
He was making, this is how serious I think it's getting. It's like cult status now with making these flies. He was making a fly out of his own dog's hair.
Seriously.
Yeah, I swear to you.
God.
I'm not going to mention, I'm not going to mention
Get it
no names
together,
on
fly
this.
fishermen. Oh my
I'm
god.
not going to mention any names, but like, I was like, is he serious? Like, he's making a fly out of his dog's hair. Like,
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Tim got to go to the BTT symposium, and Bonefish and Tarpon Trust, like the majority of people who support it, I feel like are fly fishermen,
Mhm.
and that's why we've had a good partnership because we're taking like this awesome, unique organization that's working to basically maintain and support and sometimes bring back these estuaries that are pretty much like the breeding grounds for permit tarpon and bonefish, but we're helping them get into the saltwater market, right? Or sorry, more so the spin market. And their primary market, like I was saying, the phone threw me off when we got the alarm going off there, but their primary market is the fly, and so the fly guys. And Tim got to go to this symposium where it was majority fly fishermen, and
That was an experience.
he was selling spinning reels at the BTT symposium
Yeah.
full of fly fishermen, and I heard stories for like weeks after that. But
Yeah.
tell the
Yeah,
audience
so-
like, what your experience was.
So that was a unique experience. When I say it's a cult kind of following, it's like it's a cult following. I mean, there are people who will not even touch a spinning reel, and there are a lot of people interested. What's this Florida Fishing Products?
Yeah.
And people would come up and they'd look, and then they'd see the spinning reels and they'd say, "Oh, I don't throw a spin," and then they just turn
walk away.
and walk away. And the funniest thing was, it was really hilarious because we're buddies with Daniel Andrews, Captain Daniel Andrews with Captain's Clean Water, and they were there. And he was wearing a shirt. I think it was a Sims shirt. It was like a plaid shirt. It was blue and white, and and I look at his shirt, and I look around the entire convention center, wherever it was at, and I see 3 or 4 other people with the exact same shirt, and I'm like, that's what it is. It is a lifestyle with like these companies with Sims and Orvis and I'm not like dogging on it a little bit. I'm dogging on it a little bit. I mean, it's definitely, but it's hilarious. You know, there's people wearing the same shirts. They don't touch spinning reels, and it was more that it wasn't just like 2 or 3 people that did this. It was
the
multiple
majority,
people. The majority say, "Oh, I don't do it." Well, what about when it's windy? And they're like, "I don't go fishing," or whatever. You know,
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's like
Find
okay.
somewhere there isn't
It's
wind.
funny.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
refuse
it's
to
like-
use anything but a fly.
It's like,
It's
all
a
right.
big thing.
Hey, that's you guys. Like,
So-
all right.
Our goal with working with BTT is to kind of bridge that gap between the fly fishermen and the spin fishermen. So it's been a good partnership. That's what I was trying to get to before when I lost my train of thought. But it's
that's awesome.
The fly world is definitely something else. It is wild.
And they are also ahead, I think, of the spin fishing inshore as
Right.
far as filmmaking goes.
When it comes to filmmaking and just being
and
creative,
they have a platform, you know, the Fly Fishing Film Tour, and you know, so there is a more of an incentive
Yeah, and
for
I think
people to want to make a high quality film.
I think it comes down to like a creativeness because there's kind of an art to fly fishing.
Mhm.
Right, there
like
is, yeah.
it's
back
a
to
creative guy's game.
all these
almost.
people are
Right.
right-brained people fishing, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to make my fly, and then I'm going to go film it
right.
and
Exactly.
take this very artistic photo."
But that doesn't
of the
mean you
fish."
can't make an awesome video or film with
without a doubt.
reels. It's just I think that creativity with the flies
Mhm.
down to making them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's a creative man's game.
So that was a huge rabbit trail.
Yeah.
So
But
back
anyway.
to filming,
Yeah.
which is what we came here to talk about. So you were in the military there during 9/11
Yeah.
around the Pentagon area, and then you were working for the Tampa Bay Police Department when you moved back to Florida, and then you got into offshore fishing while you're
Right.
working in the police department, and now all of a sudden you're into film, you're doing some stuff in the inshore game. Like how did you tell the audience how you got into filmmaking? Like it's not. I guess nowadays with social media, it's becoming more and more popular, but
Right.
not everybody out there is used to having a camera, like a nice camera. Not everyone knows how to edit. And, where like, how did you even get started? Like.
Yeah, I mean, I got started, like I was telling y'all off camera, with a simple GoPro. I feel like 99% of America starts with.
Right.
And then I was just doing some stuff, in the family, keeping my own videos, things like that. And I started to gain like a passion almost for it, like to the point that we would go offshore fishing and I wouldn't touch the rod anymore. And people would be like, "Are you crazy?
Mhm.
Like,
You
it's like 50-pound dolphin on the other end of this thing. You don't know what catch." I'm like, "No, I just want to film it.
Right.
Like, I want to be, somebody has to capture that out here, and I want to
Yeah.
be the guy to capture it." So, and then I slowly started getting better equipment, and I started getting some, like I told you off script too, I took a picture of a sailfish underwater, and it came out awesome, I thought. I mean, that was like the first thing I was ever proud of, like when it came to
Right.
photography or film. And the magazines were reaching out to me about picking it up and maybe putting it, and I was like, "Oh man, maybe I got something here." Like,
Yes,
it's,
that
I like
exposure
like that.
is
Well,
exciting.
it's not even exposure. It's I have a passion for it.
Mhm.
So, like we were talking about, it's almost like I don't even need to do this for money. I enjoy
Right.
like doing it. We could go out there right now and do it, and I would have a blast.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's not for like your own enjoyment. You don't want the video just for yourself. Like, you
No.
want it to share this moment, like this experience with other people.
Right.
That's the cool thing about
Yeah.
film nowadays.
Everybody has a fish story until you can actually show it. And I want to be the guy to show that story, regardless
Yeah.
if it's from the captain's point of view. Like, I like things too. I like the process.
Right.
So a lot of guys are all about the fish, catching the fish.
Mhm.
I enjoy the process, meaning, and a lot of the guys I do work for, I always ask them, like, what is your night game, like the night before, do your prep, all that stuff. I want to be a part of that.
Right,
Like, I
right.
want to be a part of
Like,
your.
I'm going to come over the night before
Yeah.
we start filming, and I'm going
Right.
to start then.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you do in a hunting situation?
Mm-hmm.
You go scout like a day or two beforehand.
Right.
I want to be a part of all that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be a part of just you maybe killing a buck or you catching the fish. Don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, I love the process. So I want to show how we get from point A to Z.
Mhm.
And I want everything in between. I just don't want the fish jumping out of the water or whatever
That's
the
good.
case.
That's really good.
It's funny you say that, because when you said that, I was thinking in my mind point A to point B, but what you're talking about is
A to
literally
Z.
point A to Z and everything in between.
Right.
And the majority of people that are filming or that are just even taking photos for their own personal Instagrams, like, they're just trying to get from point A to point B, from
Right.
catching that fish to posting on Instagram and getting the likes and getting the following. But that's cool. I think it's unique and it sets you apart that you want to get everything in between,
Right.
the nitty-gritty details. Because at the end of the day, that moment that we post onto Instagram, that one picture, like, that is like, what, 1%?
Yeah,
Of your
everything.
day.
Of everything.
It's 1% of your, for me, it was like 1% of my life and 1% of the actual time I spent on the water. For me, I love to just be out on the water, be in nature, and be able to experience something new that I wasn't able to experience before.
Yeah.
We got to fish the Nature Coast recently, and I love it up there, and I want to go explore that more. But yeah, it's like a vehicle to get me out into nature, and then the actual like process of catching a fish is great too, and I love to take photos of fish and release fish, and
Yeah.
it's all enjoyable. But I remember I used to post like fish pics almost every other day. And I didn't catch them all like at that time. I had compiled them,
Yeah.
but people thought I fished
Every
all the
day,
time, every
yeah.
single day. But I'm like, man, me holding that fish is like 1%, less than 1% of my life, or less than 1% of my time actually on the water.
Yeah. Right.
But
No, so yeah, I just everything in between. Like, I love that.
this is the real Florida fishing bro.
Yeah.
We
Phone
got
rings,
alarms
cut.
going off, we got
Cut.
phones calling. Service request.
Cut.
We just cut this one out.
Yeah.
Normally we let them.
Oh, we're back. We're back.
Yeah, a lot of times we just let it go, and the camera only shoots for 20 minutes.
And then it's because of DSR, it shuts off.
Yeah, so I gotta go. Usually like 18
I saw you.
minutes.
I knew
in,
what you were doing. I knew what you were doing.
I used to.
I learned
like,
that the
make
hard
it-
way.
Yeah, you lost like a
Yeah,
bunch of
so
film
I was
on an
filming
interview.
a guy making a video. We were doing a video,
Mhm.
and we were doing this, but I had a handheld camera and a gimbal working.
Right.
And sure enough, he talked for like 50 minutes, which is awesome because I learned this whole story and everything. I didn't
Right.
realize like after 15 minutes or something on a DSLR, it just shuts off.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got home, I saw it. I'm like,
So
oh, this is
sad.
terrible. Yeah, you learn that stuff the hard way, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned the hard way. I'm really good at learning the hard way. It takes me a few
Yeah, me
times.
too.
And it's not good, but
Yeah,
film
so-
especially I've learned the hard way. But
Yeah, so back to the A to Z thing. I think what drives me the most on that, like, because everybody these days, I feel like, has the release shot, you know,
right.
in a film, like the fish being released, which don't get me wrong, it's a big part of it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
everybody loves that. That's awesome.
Mhm.
I like to know, like, whoever I'm working with, too, their story, because we all have a unique story. Like,
Yeah.
I've met some cool dudes, and they all come from, like, you would never even know.
Mhm.
And so, like, when we talk about these pictures on Instagram, like my last photo on Instagram, the fish jumping out of the water did good. I mean, I had people reach out to me from all over. Like, y'all guys posted, which I appreciate, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, but what people don't know is I showed up down to, with that captain, down that day, I showed up in the Everglades to do that shoot.
Mhm.
And I thought we were going on, like, you know, an East Bay or, you know, a skiff. And he shows up and he has a Ginu. And I was like, oh my God, we're getting on a Ginu? Like, come on. Like, and so, so when I see that picture, and so on that Ginu, what people don't know is right before that picture was taken, or right after, I guess we were in the airboats. We were in their pathway.
Right.
So, and it was so skinny, they had to come and drag us out of there. So when I see that picture, I just think of this crazy story.
Oh man, so
You
you
know?
guys got stuck up in there.
Yeah, we got stuck up in there. We had to, like, walk the Gino out to a certain point, and they came by with an airboat because they wanted us to get out of the
Did
path.
you launch from Everglades City?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right
so
there.
I know.
You know where you're
talking
at? I
about, yeah.
can't tell you.
I was warned not to go in there because you might get run over by an
Airboat.
airboat, but that
Yeah.
area is fishy.
We were really early out there, and we were doing good. He was doing good. And then, but the first airboat came by, and we got the whole, he made middle finger yelling, get out of here.
Right.
But the water was so shallow, we couldn't walk out of there
Right.
fast enough,
Right.
like, or drag this Gino out of there. And then eventually the next airboat comes by, he hooks us up, and essentially we hold on to the side of the airboat, and he's dragging a Gino out of the area and just kind of like drops us off out there.
Did you get video of that?
Yeah. But that was all on my phone because I'm trying to hold on to the
Right,
airboat
right.
at the same time. Like, so it's like an airboat Gino connected to each other.
I would
Yeah.
like to see some video of that. If you don't mind sharing that, I'll put that
Yeah,
on this.
yeah.
And I'll overlay
That's-
over to that.
Right.
That's great. That's a funny story. Was the airboat guide pissed, or is he
Nah,
like?
he was
understanding?
a cool. I mean, he yelled at us a little bit, you know,
At
but
first.
you know, because he was telling us how that land is, you know, that's part of their lease and all this other stuff. So
gotcha.
yeah, but it is what it is. We know now, and
Yeah.
you know,
That's
we'll
funny.
only go in there when we
Yeah.
can.
Right.
But the fishing was incredible in there.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. It's the spots you're not supposed to go to. They're the
Yeah.
best, you know.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
but yeah, I just like getting the stories of people. Like, I just love that part of it, and like the passion is what fuels me to do like the next thing. And along the way, like too, starting out, like I reached out to like other guys that have been doing this for a long time, and that I look up to that are really big in the game.
right.
And I can say for the most part, pretty much of them are always hands down, hey, this is what I learned along the way. So I've, in a short process, because I essentially picked up a camera for the first time less than a year ago.
Right.
So they've helped me to get to, not that I've made it by any means, but to where I am now, or
Right.
like
Yeah.
quality wise, they all have had a hand in.
Right.
Getting
What's
that.
cool
That's
is
good,
there's always room to grow in this. You know, the
Yeah.
cameras will continue to get better.
Better,
The,
yeah.
the lenses will continue to get better. There'll be new shots and new ways and styles of fishing, and so it's really an endless game.
Right.
You know? You never. I mean, you can become the best, but you're only the best for so long before
Somebody else
comes
gets the
in.
next biggest thing out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
But I feel like too, anybody can push a button, but I feel like there takes a certain level of
Mhm.
creativity behind the.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And that's what separates the good from the great at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Is the people that love the process from start to finish, and you want to refine every little moment of the actual like film process, like you were telling
Yeah.
me, like hopping out of the boat and getting different angles. And I'm sure even all the way down to the editing process,
Right,
which
yeah.
we really didn't talk about much. But I'm sure you probably spent countless hours editing, right?
I feel like that's, we'll say 70% of the,
Mhm.
because out there, I'll go with a game plan going into it based on what the needs are of the person I'm working with, or
Right,
what they're
right.
wanting to capture.
Mhm.
We'll talk about it, but at the same time, a lot of things I do on the fly, or the night before I'll be like, hey, these are what I'm going to. In my head, I come up with this story already,
Right. Right.
and then obviously conditions. There's all kind of things that can change that.
All these variables.
Variables in there, and so I just kind of run off the fly, man. That's how
Gotta be
and then
adaptable.
and then editing at the end is now I just take. I got here. This is what I got.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it didn't go according to plan,
Right. What can I piece together with
Now
I
it?
need
what
to
can I
make
do
something
with
out of
this?
this.
Yeah.
and that's what I love. Like it's almost like putting a puzzle together.
Right.
You
right.
know?
And even on those days when things don't turn out the way
I'm
you
still having a
expect them
blast.
to, you have a blast, and there's
Yeah.
still a story to be told.
Right.
And every angler can they can like feel that, like they understand because they've been there. You know.
Yeah.
There's been some videos. I remember one time we were fishing with this guy at a Mesquite Lagoon, and we fished all day. Found multiple tailors, could not get a single fish to eat. I mean, it was just bad. I think we caught one little tiny red, and I told him like, listen, man, like we're getting towards the end of the day. I'm like, we might, and he had to go run a trip like that evening. It was like 3:30 at this point. He had to pick up the clients, I think, at like 4, and he was fishing 4 to like 8. And so I was like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to make this thing happen. I think, I might just have to tell the story as what it was. Like we worked hard, we found fish, and the fish just didn't cooperate. And I think most, anglers can they can respect that. They understand like they've been in that situation. And then 2 minutes after that, we saw a school redfish and picked up a 32-inch red. So it all worked out.
There you go.
But,
Story saved.
yeah, story.
But I think
saved.
anglers too, or your audience, I think people like the rawness of it.
Yeah.
Everybody tries to make this perfect scenario, and I've never been out there, and conditions essentially been perfect.
Right.
Something has went wrong
Right.
along the way.
You don't just get a 35-inch snook every time you
No,
go
you
out.
don't.
You don't get 3 or 4 of them. That's for
Right.
dang sure, And so you show like what actually happens out there, and if you can do that in a unique way and really tell that story, like people will buy into that more than the guy that's only showing the highlights.
Right.
So that's cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really cool
definitely-
what you're
That's
doing.
good stuff, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm trying, get better every day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
We're excited.
That's
cool.
it, too.
I know the same way.
So to wrap this up, what's next for Chad Smith? What's next? What do you envision?
Any personal goals or anything?
Personal goal.
Honestly, and this might sound like so cliche, but to get better, man. Like, and because every time I come back from a shoot or doing something with somebody, every time, I'm probably my own worst critic too, by the way, but I'm like, man, I could have
missed
got
this.
that shot.
Right.
And I think about it in my head, and it was there. I just didn't see it when I was out there. But as you go, you learn. So the next guy is going to pay dividends off of the, it's because I know now that this is what I missed. And so, but honestly, it's just to get better, dude. And again, I love this. So every day is, I don't consider this work or anything. This is like a passion.
That's awesome.
We're looking forward to seeing the progress following it along, and
I appreciate it.
and
Hopefully
we're
we
here
see
to
some
help
Osprey
any way
spinning reels
we
or something
can.
like that.
Yeah.
Which we have already with Captain John McMillan, so that's cool. But
He's a cool dude.
So where can people find you?
Right now on Instagram, I'm in the process of redoing a website.
Okay.
Because that's another thing. You make it better and it keeps going.
Yep.
But, Instagram at Chad Smith 246.
Mhm.
You can find me there for right now. I got a Facebook page, the same. But the website will be hopefully done soon.
Awesome. So we'll look forward to that
Look
for
forward
sure.
to that.
Well, you guys know where to find us at FloridaFishingProducts.com, on Instagram at Florida_fishing_products, and on Facebook at Florida Fishing Products. But also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, subscribe to our podcast. Tell us if you love it, if you hate it. If you give us a 3-star review and you don't put any sort of feedback, Tim's going to be upset at you. So we want the feedback. If you hate it, I want to know why.
Let us know.
Tim's not going to be able to sleep at night if you don't tell him why you hate our podcast. So please write us a review and give us some honest feedback. We want to make this enjoyable for you guys. So when people come back, we want them to have a good time.
Yeah.
As much of a good time as we're having actually shooting it, which we have a blast. So, anyways, I hope everyone has a good week. That was good.
Later, guys.
Appreciate the time.